Welcome to Empirical Peapod.
So we're here again today with Dr. Melissa. Does anybody else call you Dr. Melissa?
Sometimes. Most people just call me Melissa. It's like a funny misconception that you'll get a doctorate and people will call you doctor.
I feel like I would correct them every time.
No, I don't care.
I feel like even now I'm like, when somebody says Tim, I'm like, ooh, that's certified master life coach. Which of course is nothing. But
No, I don't. People call me Dr. Man. Like,
Yeah.
that's still... A lot of the people that started with me when they were kids were taught to call me Dr. Man, and now they're adults, but they will still send me messages like, hey, Dr. Man, and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, oh, that's so weird. But
Yeah.
it's fine.
I like Dr. Melissa. I would go as far as Dr. M, which works for both. But nobody just calls you doc, like an actual doctor?
People do. It's always men.
Really?
Yeah, it was like a comment online yesterday my friend was laughing at because he was like, thanks, doc.
Yes.
But I was like, it's always men.
Yeah.
And they're always like over the age of 35.
Well,
Will call me doc.
I love calling doctors doc.
It's so funny. But yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. So we were just talking before we got on. Last time we sat down and recorded was like 2 years ago.
Which is insane.
I know, life goes fast.
I know. I was like, wow, that's totally crazy. And so much has changed since
Yeah,
then.
you've packed so much life into these 2 years.
Yeah, I guess that's true.
Yeah. So there's this is the closest thing to a structured episode I've ever had, because there's specific things I want to talk about instead of just like, I usually just jump in blind and hope for the best.
Whatever works for you.
But since we already know at least your story up until we recorded last time, we don't have to fill anything. What I want to talk about is you've written 2 books.
Yes.
And this new book just came out, but the other book already existed when we recorded it last time.
Yeah.
And I feel like we didn't talk about it at all.
Yeah.
So what you just did is something that I'm curious about, because I feel like when I have a blasé attitude, everybody's like, don't be like that to yourself. But you get to have the blasé attitude about your accomplishments.
I wasn't really... it's more of a time thing. It's like, I'm very focused on like what's true now.
Sure.
And so like,
Okay,
I wrote
that's
that
fair.
book a long time ago. So
Yeah. Well, the first one was a kid's book.
It was.
About anxiety.
True.
It's actually, it's got good reviews you can get on Amazon. It's pretty amazing. Do you remember the title?
10 tips for overcoming anxiety or something. Is that right?
I embarrassingly have no idea. What I will do is attach it to the episode when it goes
Excellent.
live. It just makes me laugh that you don't know either. But I'm taking the most blame. I should know, I guess.
It's fine.
Is there a reason that you're so whatever about it?
No.
Besides the time you said, like, you're
It
all...
was a long time ago. I don't work with kids anymore.
Yeah. But one of the things I admire about you too is it's always forward. Like, and by the time we talked about this too, by the time a book comes out, it's like writing music. By the time the public sees it, you're so sick of it and you've put so much into it, you're ready to move on.
Absolutely.
So that makes sense. Like,
so that was an interesting book, in that I wrote that book in a day.
What?
Because it was when I was working with kids.
God, I hate you so much.
So, but it's like I just create spurts. Like, I get an idea and it just most of what I do, I feel like, is semi-channeled. Like, it just comes out of me and then it's gone.
Yeah.
But I wrote.
But that wasn't something you were looking for then. That just kind of came up.
No.
And you managed to push it out. Or, like you say, it came to you.
Yeah. Well, it was a day when I worked for the medical company I was working for before I went out on my own. So that's how far back this is, at least. Okay. I mean, this is pre-COVID. I don't know what year that was. 2018, maybe?
Yeah.
2019, maybe? And I had like 4 of the same sessions in a row with like 10-year-old girls.
Sure.
And I was like, this is like, I just did the same thing for 4 hours straight. And so I was like, I could put every tool I just taught these kids into a book, and then it would be a thing. So then I think I wrote the outline, and then the next day I had like 5 hours free or something.
Yeah.
And I just knock the whole thing out. It's very small.
Yeah.
It is indeed 10 tips. Like,
Right.
it's very small.
Yeah, it's not. There's no lip service in it. Like, it is. It's actually, I consider it a very functional, because you're getting exactly what it tells you you're getting, and I think that those are good practices also.
Well, they're good for kids. You know,
Yeah.
when there's a lot of kids therapy books out there, and kids need something that is easily digestible. Like, here's what you need to do right now. There's like fill in the blank stuff. You could write it in a notebook sheet if you didn't want to write in the book.
Yeah.
But it's very practical, pragmatic. And so, yeah, I mean, I don't mean to blow it off. I actually think it's kind of a great little book.
Sure.
I just wrote it a really long time ago.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
like I said, it's just not what I'm doing now.
Right. That makes sense. Like, I still think it's incredible. But that leads also then to your next book. Like, I just feel like when we talked before, I was like, this asshole's written 2 books, and I have no idea. And the second book just came out last month.
Something like that.
I'm so mad at how you're just like, yeah, it just came out at the beginning of last month.
Yeah.
Is that May? Yeah.
Sure.
Oh my God.
But yeah, I mean, I came out. I mean, the thing is, I worked on this book for
We know the title of this one.
Alchemizing Anxiety. And it also an anxiety book written for adults.
Yeah.
It's very conversational, and
Yeah.
much like the first book, it is practical. These are
Sure.
things that you can do in the now to overcome anxiety, and also to have more compassion for yourself.
Well, even just that, when you said overcoming anxiety. So in the preface, it's literally talks about a client you had that was diagnosed with cancer and anxiety and was told one of those is curable. And then you're like, well, aren't they both?
Well, yeah. So that was an interesting. That's been an interesting client. He knows that's in the book, and that was his story. Is that he cured his cancer, but was told his anxiety was incurable. And
Right.
I've had so many clients over my life as a psychologist who have been told by medical professionals that anxiety is a lifelong sentence. You never get over it. You just have to figure out how to manage it. It's just part of who you are.
Sure.
And I have challenged that. That I don't think it's just part of who you are. I think that most anxious people are highly aware people. They pick up on other people's thoughts, feelings, emotions all the time.
Right.
And so that's the experience that they have, is if somebody in their world is anxious about something, they pick up on it. And if
Yeah.
a lot of people in their world are anxious about something, it feels really overwhelming, because it's really not just their own concern about something. It's that they're aware of sort of the global connection to that emotion in that moment. So some of the tools I talk about are really like acknowledging, like, hey, this isn't even necessarily your anxiety that
Right.
you're aware of. And there's ways to sort of dissipate, release that energy that you're holding on to. But it isn't lifelong. It isn't yours most of the time. And anything that is, I worry or concern, if you get under it to like what is actually the issue at hand, it can dispel. You're not stuck with it always. But I mean, I think maybe we talked about this in the first time we did this. I mean, that was also my predominant point of view,
Yeah.
is that I'm just an anxious person.
Right.
Which is what people think. It's not even what people think. It's what they've been taught and told.
Yeah.
And so this particular client is been such a joy to work with, because now it's just maintenance. But initially, he was somebody who came in very anxious with a notebook, writing down everything I said, ready to implement it, which I love clients like that. And also, I was like, relax, man,
Yeah.
you know? And he did. He like really implemented everything I taught him, and his life is, you know, great today. And of course, he's, you know, a businessman and a dad, and, you know, the things come up, but he's like figured out how to not allow things to take him into a tailspin.
Yeah.
And
Also, I'm curious,
yeah.
not to put you on the spot too much, but when you talk about, when you first started talking about, you're talking about how it's considered non-curable, these tools are just in place. But then isn't that almost the same thing, where you just have these tools in place when it comes up? Is there a difference there?
Yeah, because it's one thing to be like, oh my God, I'm so anxious. I don't know how to fix this. I'm in a spiral now. I'm gonna mess up my day.
So
I'm not...
reactive versus
right.
I
Where
got
instead, if you have something that in your life that comes up, it doesn't mean you're an anxious person. It means you're an aware person.
Yeah.
Which is a huge
Sure.
differentiation.
Because absolutely. That makes
Because
sense.
now it's not like, oh, my anxiety is acting up again. It's outside my control.
Right.
Now it's like, oh, what am I aware of?
Yeah.
And then you can change it within minutes, which is totally different than a coping skill of, I just need to go for a walk.
Right. Or a simple counting exercise or whatever.
Right. Because you didn't really get rid of it. It's still there. You tried to get yourself from a 10 to a 7.
Yeah.
But the thing I'm looking at is like, how can you actually get under it pretty quickly to be like, this is actually from energy. I'm aware of energy.
It's almost similar to a prescription approach of like, if you take this drug, it's actually just masking the symptoms.
Right. It never goes away.
Right. Yeah.
Where now I wouldn't consider myself an anxious person. Like now I'm like, yeah, I mean, am I still aware of the world? Sure. But I know for me that that's not necessarily anxiety. It's awareness of a million things going on and what needs to be moved, changed, etc., to actually change the energy of it instead of managing it. Does that make sense? It's a small differentiation, but I
think but you're right. It is a colossal distinction.
Yeah,
like to be able to kind of switch into that mindset and see it that way will change your whole perspective of how you're dealing with it.
Yeah,
and I think that's the whole goal. And so it's a small book, which
it is.
I love because it does keep it very accessible. And it starts, the first thing you talk about is like, no bullshit. There's no jargon or clinical talk, like, which is right up my alley because everybody knows my approach is very conversational. And I do think that's the best way to get into these kind of things. Coming from your doctor background, how easy was it to make that choice?
Extremely easy. I don't really know how to talk clinically.
Yeah, even though you're clinically trained.
I am clinically trained, but it's something I've acknowledged about myself that maybe it's a weakness, but it's really hard for me to talk about things in a jargon-filled medical thing. People are like, wow, you really talk about things in a really accessible way. I'm like, that's the way my brain works. So I actually don't know how to make it sound super smart.
Yeah.
I sort of talk, I write the way I talk.
Yeah.
And so no, I mean, I wasn't hard at all because I don't really know how to do that. I sort of got through my doctorate by, I don't even really know, the skin of my teeth of like, I mean, I was smart enough to do it practically, but like when it comes to speaking or writing in a way that is supposed to impress from I don't know what that is, that energy of better than authority figure. I don't actually know how to do that.
Yeah. I think that's one of the downfalls of the whole industry in general anyways, is wanting to come from that space. I think even clients expect that, because I know even the few that I've reached out to, like, they expect you to like kind of have this hierarchy of yourself up here, and I'm like, hey man, I'm just another guy trying to figure it out too. I'm just gonna give you another perspective and help you through what you're doing. Like, I got you. Like, do you, while you were going through your doctorate, do you remember like being like, I'm never gonna use any of these technical terms, or did that come later?
I think it came later.
When you're actually building a practice?
I was so young.
Yeah.
I started my doctorate when I was 21.
I remember. I was there.
Yeah, true story. So I don't really remember, to be honest. Like, it was 20 years ago.
Yeah.
So, but
it's not that important.
It's more of just interesting looking back on like who
I know you hate looking back in general.
Well, just who I was then is so different. I was so anxious. I was so
timid.
Yeah, just in my like, I don't know. I was a totally different person, and I'm so grateful I did that young. Like, It's interesting too, where I see people going through deciding to go back to school now, and more power to them. I could never.
Yeah.
Like, I'm so grateful that that's all like in my past, and even like now I've been like learning some new things where I have a mentor or a teacher, and it's such a weird role to be stepping into, to be in like a student role again after I've been sort of the one in authority now for I don't even know how many years, 15 years at least.
Yeah, a long time.
So it's been strange.
Yeah. Now, the other thing too, aside from the book being an easy read, in kind of pulling out all the hoopla that I feel like is to an extent a distraction, anyways. I don't want to talk about too much about what's in the book. I highly recommend just reading it. Alchemizing anxiety. Now, why the word alchemizing?
I really liked the energy of that word. It really is, alchemy is changing lead into gold.
Yeah.
So it's like the energy of changing what you've decided is heavy and negative and, weighing you down quite literally into gold of like, actually, these are like, your anxiety is a gift.
Right.
If you would stop seeing it as anxiety and see it as awareness, you can use your awareness for all sorts of things in your life. And to like, really, when I say awareness, I mean, you are psychically attuned to everybody and everything, spirits, people, the earth, all of those things. So if you would use what you've labeled as anxiety for the gift that it is, then it is like changing lead into gold.
I think that goes so hand in hand with what you just were saying about changing the dynamic of how we're describing it. Yeah. When you see it as just energy, and this is in the book too, where, okay, what if instead of trying to fight how we're feeling, what if we sit in that and kind of feel that energy? And this is the tricky part is don't let that energy stick, let it move through you, and then kind of using all the tools that are already built into your essence, like whatever guides you have, whatever energy is already coming through you, whatever is happening around, and just kind of letting it be what it is. I feel like you'll find that it dissipates or starts almost making sense.
Right.
Which is crazy. Of course, you have to get to that space of where you can kind of recognize it and slow everything down and be like, all right, let me sit with this for a minute. Which I feel like is what they're trying to do when they like give you little counting things or breathing exercises, but they're missing the key part. It's not a separate thing. It's all part of one thing. Yeah.
Well, I think that's true. The psychology world has tried really hard to make themselves a science.
Yeah.
And this has been my like thorn. What do you say? A thorn in my side? Like my whole like career is that psychology really isn't a science, but they want to make it measurable. They want to make it respected by the other sciences. But
it's almost a shame that it can't be respected just for what it is, because I do think it's valuable.
Sure.
But it's so case by case and wildly different for a million different reasons. Even if it's one diagnosis, I feel like it can't be consistent.
Right. So they try, right? So they create these therapeutic modalities or whatever, cognitive behavioral therapy, dialectical behavioral therapy, where that they can say, this is the protocol, so now we can use it on these clients and measure it, and they make it measurable. So then I have people show up in my office and they say, do you do CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy?
Right.
Sure, to some degree. And they've been told that by their doctor that that's what they need, but their doctor just doesn't know all the different types of therapy there are, or what any of that actually means. And so it's just they say it's the most empirically validated type of therapy, but what they don't realize is it's just the easiest type of therapy to test.
Right.
So it's going to have the highest numbers because it's the easiest thing to test. It doesn't actually mean it's the best. So I've seen therapy always as an art. And for me, the art of therapy is ever evolving, which, in the last 8 years or so has turned into a lot of energy work, because that is what evolves people, is actually talking about the energy that they're being, that they're putting out, the vibration that they're functioning from. And that's actually what's changing the way that they function and how they get better. So, that's actually a little bit more into like what the book I'm working on now is about. But like that is sort of the underlying, I guess, tone of like how I function as a psychologist now, is bringing in the energy. So we talk about that in Alchemizing Anxiety quite a bit.
Yeah.
Too, I think one of the first chapters, we really talk about the energy from which everything in your life is showing up.
So to bookend this particular book, at the end it talks about like basically choosing the life you want to live and what you want to like basically what you want to let in.
Yeah.
What does that mean? Like choose. It's something that you hear a lot, and I feel like some people struggle with. Like, what does that mean to choose the life you want to live?
Yeah. Well, it's really looking at like if every choice that you've ever made up till right now has led you to right here.
Sure.
Then like what choices? First of all, that gives you agency. Like I can actually choose my life. I've always chosen, really always chosen everything that has shown up in your life, and so it's not something that's happened to you. So then what can I choose now that would move me forward into the life I actually want to live?
Yeah.
So it's as simple as like where people are like, I hate my job, I don't want to work here, but I have to work here. Well, no, you're choosing to work there.
Right.
So like what can you do or be or what can you explore to be open to something different?
Yeah.
So something that like shows up in my world all the time. Job's just an easy example. It can be relationships who are miserable in their marriage, but they won't leave. They don't think they can leave. They don't know how they're going to survive without that person.
Yeah.
It's going to hurt the kids. I mean, everybody has every reason.
Some people would rather be unhappy coupled than single.
Most people.
Yeah.
There's research on that. Like most people would rather be in an unhappy relationship than have no relationship.
Right.
But I mean, regardless, so there's all these things that people stay in that they're actually miserable in, but they don't acknowledge that they have another choice available.
Yeah.
And when they start to acknowledge it and really dive into like, what would it look like? What can I choose that would take me where I actually want to be? Like if I could one of the things I ask pretty much every client is, you know, if you could wake up tomorrow and have the life that you're happy in, that you are just fucking elated.
Yeah.
Can I swear on this?
Well, you already have.
I realized I was talking to a contractor about like building my deck this morning, and I was just dropping F-bombs, and I was like, man, I hope this is fine.
It was funny because nobody expects it, like this adorable little doctor lady, and then she's like, fuck everything.
I mean, it's a huge part of my vocabulary.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, oh, shit.
I think you use it for good emphasis. I think you've got it down.
That's amazing. Anyways, I didn't know if you had it marked as clean. So now that I'm thinking about the episodes I've listened to, that would never fly. Okay, moving on. What was I talking about? I got distracted by swear words. Choosing your life, right? So
Yeah.
like, it's like, okay, if you're not happy with your life, then like, if you could wake up tomorrow so excited, like what is your life there that you're not currently, that doesn't exist yet?
Just kind of like starting with the idea of excitement.
Yeah.
And then building backwards. Like, what is that? All right, now what does it look like?
Right.
What makes you this excited? And why? That's what we want to go. And also, I would point out the words you're using are very on purpose. I know we probably talked about it before, but like you're very much. I wonder what this would look like. What would this look like? Not I can't or it's not possible. Like there's no negative connotations here. These are all inviting words.
Yeah.
And that's another like big hurdle I feel like that is often overlooked.
Yes.
Words are very important.
Words are important.
Because words set intention.
Absolutely. To yourself, to your body, to the universe.
Right.
And yeah, what you think, what you say out loud, all of it has a vibration. So if you're always functioning in the negative, then that's like what you're pulling in your
Right.
world. So if it's always a question of like, what would this look like? What would I like this to look like? And what choice can I make to start to create that? And it might be really small. It might just be like, you know, I need to do one small thing differently every day.
Yeah.
To much bigger things too, of like, oh, I want to get out of this job. I suppose I need to update my resume. I suppose I need
Right.
to, you know, start.
Well, even that's critical, not just blanketing this job.
Right.
Well, okay, well, what is... There's a lot of pieces to that.
Sure.
Working on the resume. What field do I want to be in? Like, what's realistic versus what do I think I could do long term? Like, do I need more education? Like, there's a myriad of choices just to get to what do I want to do?
Yeah, there is a thing with that because a lot of people don't know. And like they've never been told that they really can choose anything.
Right.
I mean, I can wake up tomorrow and decide to have a totally different career. I might have to go
Yeah.
back to school. I might have to do
Sure.
something else. But it's just, are you willing to
Yeah.
do what's necessary to create your life?
I think that's one of the things that when people like us talk about these things, I think it's easy to get annoyed as far as being like, well, you're choosing to do your job. And they're like, okay. Like, no. Like, I get that there's consequences for actions, but if you're that unhappy, why the hell are you going every day? Like, right. Yeah, that might mean things are tight. That might mean you have to take... your job might be high stress. Maybe it's easier to just go work in fast food or work at a Walmart or something where you don't have the stress and you can just mindlessly make money while you're figuring out what you want to do. Yes. Like, I'm not saying there's not consequences. I'm saying you're in control whether you want to be or not.
Well, absolutely. And that's the thing. It's like if you want to go back to school for something and you can't have the full-time job you have now and do that at the same time, then what choice do you have available? Then maybe you do get a job that's part-time or easier for a minute and you live frugally, or you get a roommate, or you all the things that people don't want to do. But it's like, but what are you actually looking for your life to be, and how can you do it in a way that works for you so that you don't hate your life? Because that's why people get cancer. That's why people are, have physical ailments, of all these things in their life, because they're not being congruent and authentic with who they actually are and what they want their life to be like. Yeah. So, I mean, that's that last chapter of that book, I guess, in answer to like how we got here. So it was like, how did we get on this topic? But that's really what the book I'm working on is about now, is like about the creation of your life and really being willing to have everything that you'd like to have in your day-to-day life, with your body, with your relationships, with how to handle people. Like, how do you actually have a life that you love? Yeah. And most people don't realize that that's really possible. And so I guess like my, I don't know, mission, life purpose, whatever the fuck that is, dharma, is to, show people that you can actually love your life. Yeah. And I don't know, I was thinking that as I was getting ready this morning. I was like listening to music and dancing around my bathroom doing my hair. And I was like, man, I fucking love my life. But I'm so grateful. Yeah. That, I was like, I love it. I have Fridays off and I can come and do a podcast with you. And my kids are finally old enough that I can leave them for a little bit. Yeah. And, I mean, there's all these things, but it's like, you choose that every day, no matter where you're at, It
makes me sad to the sense of just hearing that. I feel like most people's knee reactions be like, fuck this bitch. Like, of course she's happy. Like, no, like, it's really what you want to put into it and what you want it to look like. Yeah. Like, your life is not for whoever's listening. Your life is not for me. No. But I can't tell you how infectious it is to be around energy like that. Like, to somebody that genuinely loves their life, and then you're like, because I'm known to be pretty self-deprecating, and I'm not a negative person by any means, but I am self-deprecating, and to be around that energy just pulls you out of it so much. And you're like, oh, man, I could be like this all the time. Yeah. The other thing I would partner with that, too, is all the stuff you just said is time is going to pass anyway.
Yes. So I've always said that. Did you get that from me, or do you just say that, too?
I do.
Because I say that all the time.
We probably have passed it back and forth, I'm sure. But time is definitely going to pass anyways. And that's, I think, when you especially at our age now, when you're like, all right, most of us are 20 years out of school, and it's like, all right, maybe I didn't go to college. I really don't want to go to college now. Well, the next 4 years are going to go by, whether I go or not. Yeah. Like, it's gonna have its own struggles. I'd rather be in control of those struggles and working towards something that I actually want to do. Yeah. So, like, might as well take it by the reins and be in the driver's seat, as opposed to, because life happens for you, not to you. And right now, a lot of us kind of sit and it's just happening to us and we're reacting, as opposed to putting ourselves in the driver's seat and be like, no, I want to go where I want to go now.
Yeah, it's so funny. Incubus's Drive came on while I was driving here, and I was like, oh, this is like such a perfect song to like listen to. Like, it was so good. But yeah, I mean, that's the thing, is it's like, if you let life happen to you, life will happen to you. Right. But like, you get to be in control of your life. Yeah. So it's like, are you willing to have that? And a lot of people, that freaks them out, because if their life goes down the shitter, it's their fault then. Right. But it's like, it's always been your fault. Right. So either acknowledge it or don't.
I feel like it's not a failure by any means to take the reins and maybe not get where you thought you wanted to go. Sure. But I don't think there's such thing as failure in the universe. Like,
no, I don't either.
Like, you might, even if you have a goal in mind, it might not be the right time. That might not be for you in general. But the idea of putting it together and going after it is the important part.
Yeah. I mean, absolutely. Because then it's like, okay, so if that doesn't work, so what?
Right.
So you have more awareness. You know what you want to choose now. And you're like, okay, well, not that again. Cool.
Right.
But I mean, people have that all the time with relationships or even with jobs or with whatever else they're choosing, where they live, where they, it's like, people are like, well, what if I go and I make the wrong choice? So what? It's not a wrong choice. You went and you were like, oh, not that.
Right.
Yeah. And so then you have that experience moving forward and they're like, okay, cool. Well, I know I don't want that now.
Sure.
So what do I want?
Or even if you still want that, how do you better prepare to get it then? Because obviously you didn't put enough into it there. Because one of the things too I like is something like when one door closes, another door opens, and that's true. But also when one door closes, you can open that motherfucker right up. That's how doors work.
Yeah, I mean, and that's so true. You really can. Yeah, I mean, you have total control, of so many things, and you can't control other people, and you can't control. The weather and certain things, but it's like...
I would even take a step to say, like, there is certain circumstances, even they're usually temporary, where you might feel stuck.
Sure.
It's fun to start getting creative, though. Like, okay, am I stuck?
Yeah.
And start playing with that and looking around and being like, I know I have a friend that's stuck because she's trying to finish school,
right.
And it's really pausing a lot of her life. Like, okay, fair, but... what does that look like then if we kind of zoom out,
right,
and look at a bigger picture?
Well, like you said, the time will pass anyways.
Exactly.
So it's like if you're finishing school, you have to get to the end of a thing.
Yeah.
You're not stuck. You're actually moving forward.
Right.
But in this
it
10
just feels
seconds,
frustrating. Yeah.
Right. You're like, I just want to get there faster.
Right. The way that we kind of process time it's fascinating, depending on what we're looking at, how we're processing the time.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, absolutely. So if you're never stuck, it's like there might be a minute that you just have to like pause, but like where can you use that space to just like lean into being more?
Yeah.
You don't always have to do. So
Right.
a lot of times people think they're stuck because they can't do the thing they want to do right now, but
Right.
there is an opportunity there to like lean in and slow down and be more and what can I add to my life that makes it greater while I'm in this holding pattern, while I'm waiting to finish school, I'm in this weird space right now where I start yoga teacher training October 1st,
right,
but today it is June and I cannot wait, and I'm tearing through the reading material she's already given me, but I can't make it start faster.
Right.
It starts in October.
Yeah.
And so, but I'm like, okay, I'm just going to lean into this space and know that October will get here before I know it. And how much more can I like just get really present with my body, get really present with the universe. I've been meditating every day. Like there's all these things I've added in to even be more prepared for when I get to that. So like if you're never stuck, it's like what is right now and what choice can I make today that would still add to my life? Does that make sense?
It does make sense. I'm in a interesting space of, like you just said, of doing.
Yeah.
Because after talking to the witch, which is what I call Katie Leeser, because she's amazing, and I mean
also like her.
I mean in the best way. But she's definitely becoming the White Witch.
Yeah.
Of just pure light and fantastic. But I tend to live in my head and overthink way too much.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of trying to turn that off as mindfully as I can, and just do.
Yeah.
Like it's time to stop thinking and just do for a while.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's seasons.
Yeah.
I think there's a season for doing, and then there's a season for, contemplating a bit more.
Right.
But I mean, that I guess is a really important point, because you can think all day about what you want your life to be, but if you're not choosing it,
exactly, then
it's not happening, because you actually, part of choice is move. Like you have to move on things.
Well, a lot of the thinking ends up with that, well, if then.
Right.
And like you can if then and then all of a sudden you wake up and you're 42.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's the thing. I mean, you do have to be willing to be like, what choice can I make? What do I actually have to do and implement in order to have what I'd like to have? Because otherwise you're always going to dream.
Yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with dreaming, but if all you ever do is dream, all you'll ever have is a dream.
Right.
So,
all you'll ever be is asleep.
Well, that. So, like, you have to actually start to implement things in your life to change things. If you want something to change, it's like, okay, well, what action is required to have what I want to have a month from now, 5 months from now, 5 years from now?
Yeah.
And then you have to do those things. And it does change things, but it is like a willingness to look at your life and go, okay, like, what do I actually need to do here? You know? And then it moves.
Right. Now, one of the things you just mentioned, too, is that you're working on a third book.
I am.
And I know we talked last week, you were working on The Proposal.
Yeah.
Now, is the book done?
No.
So what does The Proposal look like?
So in order to be published with a...
So your first two are self-published.
The first two are self-published.
And this one you want to try to shop around.
This one I would like to have published for real.
Yeah.
Whatever that means.
Right.
Anybody can self-publish on Amazon.
Sure,
It's
yeah.
very simple. Beyond that, if you want to have a publisher and be in... I mean, technically you could try to get in bookstores for most self-published book. But, like, if you want to, like, actually have a book that, I don't know, exists in the world of the publishing world.
Right.
It's just a different ball game.
Yeah.
And it's one I'm ready for. So it's something I'm choosing at this point to move forward with. So if you are writing a fiction book, it has to be complete before your proposal will be submitted, whatever. But if you're writing a nonfiction book, which is what I do, the book doesn't have to be complete in order for the proposal to move forward. Proposals are a lot of work. I've been working on this since March.
Damn.
And I'm probably on the better half of, like, maybe 60% through it, you know?
Really?
So it's
so there's like a specific outline of like, this is what a proposal needs. And it sounds like it's a pain in the ass.
Yeah, it's quite a bit. And it's a certain format. They want a synopsis of each chapter and what activities will be in the chapter if there's any.
Is this going to be a bigger book? Or is it going to, because these two are kind of the same.
It will probably be double in size to that, because they won't really look at something that small.
Right.
They want something bigger.
Yeah. Well, even this small, it's still 10 chapters. Obviously, you control how big the chapters are, and it reads real quick and easy. But, so yeah, I mean, that's pretty substantial.
It is. And so I have about 50 pages on Google Docs. I don't know what that translates to, written of the actual book. But it's definitely in the works. My focus is to finish the proposal before September. So I went to London to do a writer's workshop with Hay House Publishing. And they have a contest, essentially, where they, like, pick one of all the proposals that they get in September to go forward and publish. So it would be so cool to win the contest. Am I expecting that? Not really, but I'm willing, and I'm open to the possibility of winning the contest. And even if I don't win...
Hear those words? Those are the correct words.
So even if I don't get that, now I have a proposal, then now you can go forward to agents and publishers and et cetera, to move forward with. And I will continue to write the book, but right now I'm working pretty heavily on the proposal to get that ready and perfected by September.
Do you have the book completely outlined? Like,
yeah.
Because it sounds like to an extent, even writing the proposal could help writing the book.
Yeah, you have to have an outline.
Synopsis it all anyways.
Yep, you have to have... So, I mean, I have the outline all written out, and, you have to have... They want to know your chapters, your chapter titles, and what each chapter will be about, and how much of the book you already have done. They do actually require you to do 2 full chapters, like, need to be submitted to them. Yeah. So you do have to have some of it written. But that's all you need at that point. So that's what I'm working on right now. It's a lot of what we've been talking about the creation of your life.
Right.
And really, like, my point of view is the cure for anxiety, depression, burnout, which all things really look a lot like the same thing.
Right.
Really is the creation of your life. If you are creating a life that you love, you're not depressed. You're not anxious because you're fucking thrilled with everything you're creating.
Right.
So that's you know, when I look at my clients, what cures them, what like actually gets them to a point where like they love their life, is that they're choosing to create what they want. They're opening businesses that they've always dreamed of. And even if it's scary, and even if it's, I don't know how I'm going to pay the bills this month, all of that exists, but they're still so much happier than they were working for a job they hated.
Right.
You know, they're, you know, people who are finally leaving the marriage that was emotionally abusive for 20 years.
Yeah.
Now they're leaving those situations and they're like, oh my God, I can breathe for the first time in my life. I can make choices without walking on eggshells or being afraid that I'm going to piss this person off or we're going to have a fight. So the world just opened up for them. Yeah. And so like, I see all of those things where people have been so stuck with the life that they thought they just had to settle for and start to create their life, and their anxiety and depression and burnout and anger and everything else somebody comes to therapy for, that all goes away.
Yeah.
So that's what the next book's about.
Nice. And I feel like it doesn't mean that it doesn't ebb and flow. It just means that it's...
Yeah, you're going to have shitty days. Sure. Something comes up, then something's weird.
Right.
But then you learn how to work through
But even
it.
that is like, it's like when you talk about, it becomes then it's not actually anxiety or depression or those things because it hits in a different way and it doesn't feel sticky.
Yeah, or you acknowledge like a sticky energy and then you're like, what is this? Is this the person I'm working on this thing with?
Exploring.
Right. Do I need to like, you know, change direction?
Yeah.
Do I need to have a conversation? Like what needs to happen for this to move or change?
Yeah.
And, you know, you might have a week of anxiety because, I don't know, you think you're going to lose your job. Or, you know, so there's something that's showing up in your life. But then you're like, okay, what is required here so that I know that no matter what happens, I will always have my own back? Right. And that's something that for me I've looked a lot at is like, okay, like that would be upsetting. And I know at the end of the day, I will always be fine because I will always take care of myself. So if something shows up that's weird, I'll be like, okay, well, what do I need to do or change or implement to move through it? And it's a different energy than like everything sucks, everything bad happens to me, I'm so unlucky.
Yeah.
Because that's where you stay stuck. Kind of like you were talking about, like, words.
Right.
You know, it's like if you have this point of view that you're always, like, I had a lady I really like that I've, you know, been working with doing some EFT tapping. But she was like, my luck's been so low and everything's so unlucky. And, you know, one thing bad happens after the next thing. And so we looked at it this week and I was like, okay, but you said that, but look at all the things that actually changed in your life this week.
Right.
That actually got better.
Yeah.
And we had like 5 examples of things that had moved or changed or flowed differently. And I was like, you're just stuck in a narrative.
Right.
Of everything's bad and nothing works out for me. And I was like, so that's not even true anymore. So like start to look for possibilities, look for like, where's the good today? What was the best thing that happened today? And start to, like, at the end of the day, acknowledge all the good things today and start telling yourself, I am lucky. Things do work out for me. Everything is happening for me. And watch how, like, your narrative will change your reality.
Yeah. One of the things, too, that sticks in my craw is when people talk about luck.
Yeah.
Or especially bad luck, because luck isn't good or bad. It's probability.
Yeah, I don't even know that I believe in luck at all. I think that... can create everything. Yeah. You know? So like, I'm like, what showed up? Oh, but this is just the willingness to actualize your life. So like we have these planters out front.
Yeah.
And I kept for like a week, I was like, God, I gotta get to freaking Home Depot and get some flowers. It's like warm outside to get some flowers in those planters. And I just couldn't get there. Like the one day I was going to go, it started pouring and I was like, I'm not going to go pick out flowers in the rain. So I was like, okay, we're not choosing that. And then I had this lady who comes in and she like works for, I don't know, some horticulture, something. And she's like, I got a whole car full of flowers. I don't know what to do with. Do you want any? And I was like, that's amazing because I need flowers for this planter. And I went and I picked out the flowers and planted them. And I was like, oh, that's so cool. I just created that. It wasn't like, oh my God, it's raining. I'm so unlucky.
Yeah.
No, everything was working for me.
Right.
So I saved the money. I didn't have to buy the flowers and I still got free flowers.
Right.
So, but that's like a point of view. If I would have been like, oh, I was going to do it today and it rained. I'm so unlucky. No, if you have the point of view that everything is always working out in your highest good.
Right.
Then everything is always working out for your highest good.
Yeah, I like when things define themselves. So one of the things too that's shifted is because this is kind of I mean, it feels like a natural progression, but you're also in the. We talked about how different it's from 2 years ago. 2 years ago, we were doing a lot of what was it called?
Access consciousness.
Access consciousness. All I remember is SOP.
Yeah, which is great, and I still love. I mean, I just have changed the name of it and made it my own.
Yeah.
But
you moved away from that.
I have. I've left that organization just as a facilitator. It just stopped being congruent. Mm-hmm. You know, it was one of those things that worked really well when it worked for me, for what I needed it for.
Yeah.
And I actually just feel like I evolved out of it, which maybe sounds really cocky or something. But
I don't think it does. Well, one of the things that's come up a lot this season is we as humans presume everything to last forever.
Yeah.
But things are just what they are for as long as they're serving, and then you move on. Like, if we sometimes get stuck in that the same way, like with relationships, with jobs.
Right.
But even like with something like this, you didn't go to it intending it to be forever.
No.
It served its purpose, and now
exactly. It served a purpose. I'm grateful. I got a lot of great insights, tools, languaging from that organization. I'm grateful for the time I had with it. And somewhere in the last year, it just stopped feeling congruent anymore. It started feeling heavy and clunky. And, you know, one of the things I talk to people a lot about is trusting your intuition, trusting your body's cues. Yeah. You know, if something feels light and expansive and like, I want to do more of this, I'm excited about this, follow that. And if something starts to feel clunky or weird or like, ugh. And that's what happened. It started to feel kind of heavy. And I was like, I don't know that they started saying some things that I would listen with a bit more discernment and be like, I don't actually agree with that.
Right.
And started to start, zooming out a little bit and to be like, is this actually where I want to have my flag in the sand, And I was like, I don't think I actually desire to be defined by this anymore. And I know that I got what I needed from it. And yet I could see where the organization was heading.
Right.
And it wasn't really where I wanted to go.
Right.
So I was like, there's actually something greater for me not being attached to any sort of overarching organization. Yeah. And so I've really sort of branched out on my own. I'm starting doing my own classes and my own, I don't know, just the way that I'm, writing books and I'm doing different things that are more aligned with who I want to be and where I want to be now.
Yeah. Now, one of the things too is because when you're doing access, you were doing the actual access bars and the SOP stuff, and you're saying you can kind of some of that can be worked in, an evolved version of that, but you've recently gotten into newer things also, like the tapping.
Yeah.
What is this tapping about?
So EFT tapping is actually something I've done.
EFT?
EFT stands for Emotional Freedom Technique.
Ah.
And I have been doing that for years and years and years and years and years. I just never bothered to get properly trained in it. Anybody can watch it on YouTube and sort of learn how to do it.
It's very simple process.
It's very simple. Yeah. So what I've really learned now is how to facilitate another person through it, which is a little different. You could absolutely use it on yourself, but sometimes having a guide through it will take you and they'll ask you questions or sort of have sentences that are open-ended to allow, the client to sort of fill that in. And so I dove deep into getting certified in that. So now I'm very close to the end, which has been a process. You have to do 50 hours.
Oh, wow.
And I'm on hour 46. So we're nearing the end of that. I still have some case studies and other things I need to write up. But really, it's tapping on meridian points, which is based in acupuncture or acupressure, which is just where different energy centers sort of all come together in the body.
Right.
So
it's where things can get stuck.
Yeah. And so it's funny, I have a client I'm working with right now with it, and she's like, this just feels like really accelerated therapy. And I was like, yeah, because it addresses the energy from which something's created or something's stuck.
Yeah.
It is talking through things. It's a lot more active than, say, like an energy process where you just lay down and receive.
Right.
This is talking with the person. They're saying what's coming up for them, and then you go through and you tap on these points where the energy might be locked in of whatever's coming up, and then people get new awarenesses.
Right.
So
you get the opportunity to kind of set that intention audibly.
Yes.
And then you're also shaking up that energy that could easily stagnate in specific spots in the body.
Absolutely. And so then once people get it out, then the idea is that people sort of get like this expanded or like bird's eye view of the thing. So they, if you're really in something, you often, can't see the forest through the trees kind of thing.
Right.
And with tapping, often people get through a session and they're like, oh, I can see the whole thing from like the outside now. And now I can see like, oh, this is just what needs to move or change in order to either change it, have more ease in my body with it. So, I mean, I found that is actually wildly helpful for panic, for, anxiety in the moment, because like we were talking about, anxiety is energy.
Yeah.
And so this actually just moves that stuck energy.
Right.
So I found it to be really helpful for all sorts of things with my 50 people that I've, 50 sessions I've done recently.
Yeah.
I've seen it move through a lot of different things. I've seen people leave abusive relationships while we were tapping on it. I've seen people change their money flows. I've seen people, get over phobias, like all sorts of different things. And a lot of time it's getting to like the energy that has held that thing stuck. So yeah, that's something I've added to my practice of things.
Right.
And I'm always like looking for and expanding on new ideas and new things to add.
Yeah.
I don't know if that kind of answers that.
I think it does. I think that I feel like that almost pretty much covers everything that's been going on for like the last 2 years. What else have we missed? What else has been going on?
I don't know. I think that I am. I don't know. I'm like, there's a couple different things. I don't know how to put it into words. The energy shifted. I feel a lot more like grounded and congruent with like who I am right now, which is cool. Like I've gotten really into, like just more spiritual practices. I guess that's more like, which is weird because again, a lot of these things that I'm playing with right now are things I've always kind of played with.
Right.
But they were things that were sort of like set on the back burner.
They're coming through different now.
Yeah, like, and now they're just like, I'm diving deeper into things.
Yeah.
Like I've been doing.
You do a few different, I don't even know if I would call them shows, but you're on live a lot. I know you have Wild Enthusiasm for Living is a podcast.
That's true.
Talking with the entities.
So the entity stuff was part of Access. So
okay, that's different.
I'm not doing that at the organization anymore because it was within Access.
But are you still exploring
yes.
entities in general?
So general spiritual, communicating with spirits,
Yeah.
That won't go anywhere because that's like part of who I be.
Right.
So like that's what I will find is I'm still happy to facilitate ghost for, better, I don't know, lack of a better word, entities that are people entities that does come up. I actually did tapping with an entity that was like in this shop that my friend owns that like.
You did tapping with an entity.
I did.
Interesting.
Because the entity was stuck because it was like a, it was trauma based. And so, but
in theory, I mean, again, it's just energy.
It's just energy.
And this is not pushing, but it's moving energy.
Yeah. So I'd never done it before.
The possibility checks out.
I got this hit,
Yeah.
and I was like, I think I can tap through this entity's trauma with it, so it can leave.
Sure.
And I did. I just sat there and did the tapping with the entity. I couldn't see him. I don't see them. I was just aware of the energy, but I just intuitively said and moved through whatever came up, and he left. And I was in the shop yesterday. I was like, it's so much brighter in here. She's like, I can't thank you enough. She's like, it's changed the energy in here so much. People are noticing the energy change since that entity left. So it was just like a scared, traumatized entity that was sort of stuck in that shop. So
now you can add Ghostbuster to your business card.
Yeah, right. I mean, I really can. I've always done that. So, I mean, that exists, but like I've tapped a lot into spirit guides and angels and like the higher vibrational entities and or I would call them spirits.
Right.
and Earth Spirits. I'm actually doing a workshop with the Theosophical Society on Earth Spirits. So that is August 23rd. So I'm just honored that they like chose my thing to like do like a workshop for them.
Yeah.
So so I have that coming up. So I still love to do like in-person workshops. I've done some things like locally here in Geneva and Aurora on like business and money and manifesting and those types of things. So it's everything that has to do with energy and raising your vibration and functioning at a higher frequency, which ultimately all leads to people feeling happier, which is like my just target. It's just, I just would love everybody to know that happiness and joy is available to them.
Right.
So, I mean, that's, you know, when you ask what else I'm doing, it's a lot of stuff like that.
Yeah.
Sort of like workshops. I have a workshop coming up at the end of the month. I don't know when this will air, about opening your heart chakra. Just like where so many people are so blocked in their heart, and I have been too for many years.
Right. That's my favorite one to work on.
Yeah, it's just something that I know had been relatively closed off for a really long time, and that's something I've been really working on. So I was like, I'm gonna do a workshop on this. So because that's what happens.
Right.
I have an idea, and I'm like, let's do this, because I had so many clients coming in that were so blocked and kind of angry and hated everyone and mistrustful of everyone, and you know, all sorts of these heart chakra blocks. And I was like, let's focus on opening that up for people. So I mean, yeah, I guess an answer to like what else, it's playing in all of those realms and doing different workshops, different things. I'm leaning into my podcast. I'm actually coming out with a podcast weekly now. Before it was kind of sporadic. Now I have like a real schedule where we're sticking to that. I have a real like target of growing that. So just different things about, I also have a Facebook group, which I think you started to mention, the Lightworkers Lounge, which is just for anybody and everybody that I do lives in. I offer different things in there that I don't offer other places. And it's free. I'm not trying to sell you anything. You'll see what I have coming up in that group, but you know, it's just a like
Lightworkers Lounge. Oh, I think that you recently turned it to that.
I did.
That's right. That's because we're moving away from the thing.
Yeah. So I've changed a lot of things.
Well, yeah, for sure. On top of all this, still you are a mom to 3 kids and a wife. Also, I feel like since we've talked, your son is trying to get into acting. Yeah,
that's been going on. Nothing too interesting there. He does lots of auditions.
I just feel like we just went through everything you're doing just for you.
Yeah.
Now on top of this, also auditions, practicing, like running lines, like having to be places at specific times. It's a lot to juggle.
Yeah.
So I think that's incredible too. Like, you know, he's got to take classes and stuff too. Yeah. Like, and that's a tough thing to break into, especially I feel like in the Midwest.
Chicago actually has a much larger acting scene than I realized. There's a number of studios downtown Chicago that are full of trailers and actors, things, and studio rooms and blah, blah, blah. So I've learned a lot. I mean, he's been in a few background roles. None of them have aired yet. They're like starting to come out in the next few months. He hasn't had any major speaking parts yet, but
I'm curious too, like even just being around that scene has a stereotype.
Oh, yeah.
And being kind of the intuitive and energy-based person you are, what's it like being in that scene in general of like wanting, because now you want these opportunities for your son. You also want to protect your son because there's a lot of horror stories.
Oh, yeah.
So it's like, how do you kind of reconcile and balance that?
I think the best and worst thing about all that is that son of mine is a spitting image of me. We are like the same.
Yeah.
So the good news is I know how to help him because he's so much like myself.
Right.
The bad news is he's so much like myself. So he does pick up on everybody else's energies, and he, you know, we've worked through a lot. And he does. We're pretty good at like protecting his energy before we kind of go into certain situations and being, you know, aware of our environment and what we might be picking up on from other people, the actors, all the things.
Do you guys do little protection things?
Yeah, usually driving in.
And then like coming out, like, all right, let's get it all off of us.
Yeah. There was one that was like weird, like, and it's also following your energy, like intuition of like, maybe we don't engage in the energy that this is.
Right.
You know, even just auditions. But no, I mean, overall, like, we've navigated it pretty well. We'll see if he sticks with it long term. We're
Sure.
not pushing it at all.
Yeah,
We're
yeah.
like, the day he's done, we're done.
Right.
So it's just, we're still doing it, and we'll see. But yeah, that's been an interesting to navigate for sure. But it's also been cool. We've met different celebrities and different, I mean, I get to see the way things are taped, and like, that's kind of a neat thing, like, that I get to live vicariously through
Don't
him.
you feel like it takes the magic away when you're like, oh, this is how they do this?
No, I think it's interesting to me.
Of course, you enjoy everything.
Right. But I don't know. It's not awful. I mean, they're
Yeah.
long days of, when you're a background character, you're like there for like, I think the kids have 8 hours or 9 hours, maybe it's 9 hours that they can be there. So for like, they call it your pumpkin time,
Yeah,
where like
yeah.
you have to leave. And like legally, so it's a lot of just sitting around and waiting. So in weird like old churches and just like weird environments.
Yeah.
So, but I mean, we've just learned to make the most of it. We bring a bunch of stuff to do, and I've actually done a ton of writing during those times. So yeah, it's okay.
So does he have a union card?
He's not SAG yet. No, you have to
Okay.
have had speaking roles to be SAG.
Okay. I was wondering where the cutoff is. Actually.
Yeah. So no, he's had a number of agents, but he's not SAG yet.
Is a number of agents?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, he's one in LA. He's got one here in Chicago, and he's one in New York.
Phew. 3 agents. Wow. Is it one agency or
No, they're 3 different agents.
3 different agencies? Even that's
Mm-hmm.
crazy. That's got to be a hell of an investment.
You don't pay for agents.
Is that true?
Yeah, you pay them a percentage.
You know what? I guess that makes sense. Similar to.
It's like real estate.
Yeah.
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 It's an agent.
You're not making money unless you're making them money.
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
you don't pay your agents.
Yeah, that makes sense then. Because in my head, I'm like, that's got to cost so much money.
No, we do pay our management company, but they do a lot for us. So that's
Right,
where they manage all the like energies within the agents,
Yeah.
and they help him for all his auditions. He goes in and they self tape with him, and then he does his acting classes through them. So we do pay them, but we get quite a bit for what we pay for.
Yeah. That's awesome. It's impressive. I feel like you would never think that. Because you have so much going on. I think it's easy to be like, wow, Melissa must be like kind of the focus of the family. But it's like,
No, everybody's got their own stuff.
everybody's got a lot of stuff going on.
Yeah, no, my youngest is like really into gymnastics. He starts competing this year, so that'll be, long weekends and things at gymnastics meets. Is that what they're called?
I don't know.
Are
they competitions?
I'm so new to that world. So that's new, but he's loving it. He's strong. He's, really enjoying that whole world. So that's been cool.
Yeah.
My oldest son is, still working a job, working on, figuring what he wants to do with his life long term. But,
Yeah.
I mean, there's always a lot going on. It's, and I'm really grateful too. I mean, you're talking about how do I manage all the things. Like, my husband is amazing and really helps. If I'm working on something and I can't take a kid somewhere, I mean, we work our schedule out constantly. So it's like, who can take kid where today?
It's funny to me, just in the sense of like, some of the stuff that comes up as we kind of go through people's lives is not great. So it's nice to have a positive episode, but it's also nice to see. I presume this is what a healthy relationship looks like.
Yeah.
I have not experienced one yet. I'm excited to. I'm willing to have.
I love that.
I'm willing to have a healthy relationship.
I love that.
But it's nice to kind of check in and do that. I think we've come to the end. You continue to do amazing things. I continue to appreciate you and love you to death. This has been fantastic. Everybody should check out this book. Hopefully this new one gets published. I mean, it'll get published either way, but...
Yeah, it'll just take longer.
I hope somebody throws money at you.
I hope so too.
Yeah, I'm willing to let somebody throw money at you.
That's amazing. Yeah, I'm excited about the possibilities that can open up, and like I said, we'll see. I mean, that's just, you have to be willing to be patient with things like that. Of like, okay, if I don't win this contest, then I'm going to start working on getting a writing agent and
Right.
Submitting to other publishers, and
Yeah.
it's something that I really desire to have a voice in the world, and I think that's like my current target dream, whatever you want to call it.
Perfect. Well, good. Let's get that out there. That'll be our final thought. Is what you just said there. So I appreciate you finding some time coming to sit with me again in our office.